What's up, Faithfully Fit family? I just finished my workout. It is Saturday morning. I say Saturday morning. It's like right at 12 right now. I just finished my workout. Not exactly what my plan was for the day, though. My plan for the day was I was going to get up at 7 and go work out at the gym because if you're in Texas, you know, or if you're aware of what Texas is doing, we can go back to the gym now with some restrictions. I have desperately missed getting a chance to see my friends at the gym, getting to work out around people, talk to them during it. But I had to work out in my garage this morning. Why? Well, I overslept. I actually slept for like 10 and a half hours last night, okay? Here's the crazy thing. I was exhausted. And I know that there's a lot of exhaustion going on right now, whether it be physical or mental or emotional. I think I've heard pretty much across the board when I've been talking to people that they're just worn out. Now, there are some refreshing things. Maybe you get to read a little bit more, maybe you get to sleep a little bit more, but overall, with so much going on, just toast. I felt that last night. I've been feeling that kind of in the weekends now. You know, I get refreshed come about Tuesday afternoon, and I'm good for Tuesday evening, Wednesday, and Thursday, and then Friday I start to tank again. There's just so much going on. Here's one of the interesting things. So last night I'm reading. I'm laying on the couch and I'm reading, and so I'm laying down and I do that deal where like the book starts to like fall and then I catch it and then it falls and then I catch it and then eventually it just hits me in the face. I'm like, okay, I'm going to bed. So I go get in bed and I don't even bother to set my alarm because I was just like, oh yeah, I'll wake up. Like I'm going to bed at like 9 o'clock. Like of course I'm going to wake up early enough. I've been waking up at 6 o'clock for the last basically a week without an alarm. Well, and so then I wake up, I get up and I look and it's not too bright outside, so no alarms there. I go to make coffee, eat a little bit of oatmeal before I go to the gym, and I look at the clock and it's 8:30. I was like, I did the Robin Williams coming out of Jumanji for the first time response. And so it was like, what just happened? And the deal was that I was just so tired that my body I just slept forever, basically. And so with that affecting me with so much fatigue, I'm sitting there, I'm eating my oatmeal, drinking my coffee, and something hit me. In Matthew 11, Jesus says, "Come to me, all you who are weak and heavy burdened, and I will give you rest. My yoke is easy, my burden is light." And it's really interesting because here's one of the deals is a lot of times we get in this cycle at times where we try to seek holiness or goodness or whatever you want to classify. We try to seek that absolutely on our own. And so what Jesus is saying is that trying to seek that is absolutely exhausting. Like, for example, if you're trying to constantly balance the scales, like, oh man, I cut that lady off and flipped her the bird, so now I've got to make sure that I go and, I don't know, do something kind, help an old person across the street. Like, we constantly have this fatigue of trying to balance the scales. Like, we never just develop this relationship where we simply are allowing Christ to impact our lives and allowing that to impact the way that we treat other people, the way that we go about our lives, the way, like, we don't have to continuously check off these boxes. Like, it's going to come naturally. That's kind of the point of the book of James, is that if we are following Christ, like, it's going to come naturally. That yes, there are things that we do because we have faith, but those things are going to flow. That if we are studying scriptures, if we're reading, if we're diving in, if we're praying, if we're genuinely seeking a relationship with Christ, like, those things are going to come, and they're going to come naturally. Like, we aren't having to constantly force this. Now, yeah, there's still going to be temptation. There's going to be times when we trip and when we stumble. I mean, it happens all the time. But it's not this massive burden that we wind up carrying on our shoulders. See, Jesus was talking about that, and you can kind of look at it in one of two ways. You can kind of look at it and say that the yoke that he was referring to was the yoke that was that people would have thought when he said it was the yoke that would go across their shoulders when they would carry water. That, if you put more buckets or more water in the buckets, it would get heavier and heavier. Or you could talk about like when oxen were plowing a field. Not everyone back then had oxen, but they understood how it functioned, and so you have this yoke that goes across the oxen. The longer the field, the more rocky the field, the more hard the soil, the more difficult it gets. But regardless, as they understood that when he talks about my yoke is easy and my burden is light, like they would think about this yoke that is on their shoulders. And so when we start to talk about this, we start to talk about this fatigue, this religious fatigue of just trying to fit a square peg into a round hole. I would just hope to encourage you and just say, here's the deal, is that Christ says his yoke is easy and his burden is light. That if you have this massive weight, if you have this massive guilt because you don't constantly choose the right thing, I would recommend that you just take a step back, you pull back and read the end of Matthew 11:26 to the end, where Christ is really talking about the fact that when you follow him, you shouldn't feel this crushing weight. You should actually feel this release. That following Christ is actually, it's rejuvenating and it's energizing. Not that we do it in the same way that we would drink an energy drink and like go to Jesus like, hey, all right, I feel great now. But the things that we get out of that, the comfort that we have, the assurance that we have, the hope that we have, those are energizing things. Like part of the reason why people are so tired right now is because there's just like where's the hope in the future? You know what I'm saying? Like it's just like, oh man, like we don't know what's going to happen next. There's an uncertainty. There's a concern, and so I would just say, go read Matthew 11:26 to 30. And realize that, 26 to 28, I'm adding verses. Realize that his yoke is easy and his burden is light, that we should be encouraged by the fact that our faith in Christ begins with the relationship. It doesn't begin with having to follow all of the rules and do all the actions. That the following comes from the following of the rules. It comes from an excitement that comes from following Christ, that comes from the relationship. All right. So hope you guys have a wonderful Saturday. Be talking to you guys very, very soon. Going to start trying to do a lot more of these. Try to do maybe some devotionals, just some talks, just some what's up. So guys, I hope you have a great day. I will see you guys very, very soon.